Alright, it has been way too long since I've been on this project. So, let's finish where we left off last time. Last time I was working on the reservoir for the windshield washer fluid. At least I believe that's what that is. So that's all together and painted now and ready to be mounted. And also the fuel filter. And that is all done as well. And, you know, if it weren't for the fact that it wouldn't, this would actually work as a little fuel filter bowl. I'm actually really pleased with how that came out. And of course I got the holes drilled so the fuel lines will come in and out once it's all installed. And the holes here weren't right, so I had to fill that in. I'll have to drill a couple more holes for that to be mounted there. And of course this gets mounted there. And I think last time we saw the windshield wiper motor and gearbox. Again, I think that's what that is. And that goes in just like that. So those are those pieces done. Well, not done, but done enough for now until they're ready to be mounted. After they're mounted, I will add the plumbing and wiring and whatever else is needed. So the next thing I want to do, I'm going to continue working on the stuff that goes along there. And there is a heater valve that goes here. And then you've got the pedal box here. You got the gas, brake, and clutch pedal box here. So that's what we're going to be working on next. So the heater valve that goes here. Here's a picture of what that heater valve looks like. And so I just cut those pieces out of brass, and here's a quick look at those pieces. All right, so there's the main body turned off the lathe, and I cut a piece like that, another piece like that, piece there, and that. So those are all of the parts that will make up this heater valve. All right, so we'll put these pieces together. This one will go on like that. Then this one. So those two pieces are on. And then I'll just have to clamp that piece on like that. And that piece on like that. I'll get that clamped up, put some solder on it, and I'll show you what it looks like. And so here is the finished assembly. And this is just heat shrink. I just put that on a piece of solder and shrunk that down. I bent the solder first, put the heat shrink on it and shrunk it down. That'll just get CA'd there. And then that will get mounted right there. I still need to drill the hole for that hose to go through, but that gets mounted there. And after that is mounted, I will then drill a hole in the firewall for the cable to come through, put a little lever on there and connect the cable to the lever. And that is the heater valve all done. Of course, I'll need to put some hose clamps on there. Just make a couple of hose clamps. I've been tempted to just buy some photo-etched hose clamps on eBay. I've seen some that look okay, so I'll either do that or make the hose clamps myself. But there's that part done. And then the next thing is the pedal box. Now the first part is the kit actually didn't include anything for this. This will mount right here, and the steering shaft comes out of that hole, of course goes down to the rack and pinion there, and this rod right there will connect to a throttle linkage. On the next video after this, I will make the bracket here and finish the throttle linkage stuff. This was just cut out of a piece of aluminum. Let me see if I can find that rod that I used. So just a piece of aluminum like this. That's where it got cut off, obviously. And, you know, as I'm doing, I'm using some blue Sharpie, color it in. I scribe in the lines, take it to the bandsaw, cut off the metal I don't want, and then I attack it with a bunch of files and a Dremel tool until I get the shape I want. And in this case, that was this shape right here. Now, again, the kit did not include that, so I've just been going off of reference photos. And here's one of the photos that I was using. And that is this piece right here. So I got a photo of this view. I had another photo looking down from the top so I can kind of get an idea of the overall shape. And again, just filed that out of a piece of aluminum. And the rod here for the throttle linkage, that's a piece of brass. And I just cut and drilled that and filed it to shape, filed the edges smooth, and then put it in the liquid tin. I've used this stuff before. I really like this stuff. But I tell you, you really have to clean the brass. Got to make sure it's super clean, and or this stuff won't work very well. You know, it takes a little bit of practice to figure that out. Not too bad. But that's just coated in the liquid tin. And I did drill that hole all the way through because I might, of course that'll go through here and connect to the steering wheel. I might make the steering functional. Not really sure just yet. But again, there's your steering and throttle box. On the real car, your gas pedal goes up through there and runs that arm for your throttle. But obviously, that's not going to work on this thing. So again, that goes there. And the other part, if we go back to the reference photos, all of this stuff right here. These are your brake, your front and rear brake master cylinders, your clutch master or your clutch cylinder, and then your pneumatic servo for your brake assist. And one thing that really helped with building that, along with the reference photos, is, I think I showed you this before, I got a shop manual on eBay, and in the shop manual, there's a section here for the brakes. So by looking at the reference photos and this exploded view and the kit part, this is what the kit gives you. Not even a clutch cylinder, just the brake cylinders, and that's it. So that's what the kit gives you. I went through the same process that I did for the throttle and steering box by starting with this piece right here, and just cut that out of a piece of aluminum, just like I said, like I did for the other one. It took a few tries. My first two attempts didn't come out very well at all. I scrapped them, started over a couple of times. After I made that, then I made the bracket here out of brass. Then I made this piece here. Let's take a look at some of those parts. But this is now that piece right here. There's that piece pretty much done. It still needs a little bit more smoothing and sanding and polishing, but I'm going to call it done for now. Next part I did was this bracket around here. I just cut out a paper template, transferred that paper template to a piece of brass, and that then goes just like that. And I have the holes here for the front and rear brake cylinders that go here. So that is that piece, just like that. And I will more than likely just JB weld that in place. More than likely. We'll see. Next thing I started was the bellows part here. I turned that down on a piece of aluminum, turned in the ridges, and then I put a piece of heat shrink around it, and then some steel wire. I'll cut those shorter just before I final attach it. Probably put a little CA on it just to keep them from unraveling maybe. But those will be on the bottom, you know, like that. So when it's all installed, those parts will never be seen. So I'm not concerned about that. Next part is the back plate here. And that's just a piece of brass, and that will go on just like that. I did put a hole here. What I'll more than likely do is just put a screw through that hole and just fill that with JB weld, and I'll do a similar thing for the front part there. I will more than likely liquid tin this piece, and just put some fake studs and nuts coming through those holes. There's also a hole here. That hole lines up with the hole we saw earlier right there. So that, I'll probably actually screw that on, more than likely. I'll probably run a screw from the back side, cut the threads off flush so that this can then go on it like that. Now the front of that right there, which is right here, those are the parts soldered on, and again that will go right there. The front and rear brake master cylinders and the clutch cylinder here, and this is the one for the clutch like that, and that will just go into the hole like that. It's a little bit of a tight fit. I don't want to break that little shaft off, so I don't want to force it just yet. I'll file that or open that hole up a little bit so it'll be a nice slide fit, and I'll put that in with some CA or some Loctite, but that'll go in like that. Here is one of the completed brake cylinders, and there's the back side, and that will go on just like that. All right, so I've been making these little pieces in here. Those are the pistons for the master cylinders, and nothing here is really glued together yet, but that shaft and those two arms are there. And again, I've been looking at reference photos, and the exact shape of all these pieces isn't technically correct, but everything is connected to the correct other thing. I did make a few changes. For example, this piece right here connects those two pistons, and that piece goes in between them. What I did was I made that flat, and I made that piece go around it. And that was just easier to make, and especially for something that won't even be visible when it's together, I'm okay with that. So that's what that's looking like now. This needs a little bit more fine-tuning and polishing and cleaning up. And some of the pieces are left long, like for example, this right here is probably a little long. I'll have to cut that off. And this piece sticking back here again is probably a little bit long. I'll probably have to cut it off about here somewhere, but I'll determine that as I'm fitting it. And that one's wanting to fall off. And this all connects to like that. Yeah, that one came off. That's okay. And that connects to the pneumatic bellows. And of course all of this can come apart. Take that off. Take this other one off. And we'll pull that apart. So there's all of the individual pieces. I'm missing one. So those are all of the individual pieces. Again, I need to do some final sanding and polishing, and then put them in the liquid tin. And then I can start assembling everything. I still don't know. You know, each piece individually fits, but I still don't know if everything fits together as a whole. I'll just have to find out in a little bit. So yeah, let me get these cleaned up and liquid tinned, and then put it together and I'll show you what it looks like. And with it all assembled, here's what all of that looks like assembled. And we'll just kind of go over how I made these pieces here. Again, the main base part here, is the bottom view here, that again was just cut and filed out of a piece of aluminum. And I don't like that washer. If you can see, there is supposed to be something there, and in the reference photos there's something there. That's just too big. I don't like it. I'll just pop that off. It's only held in with the .ca. I'll pop that off and make something a little smaller to go around there. So again, this piece was just made out of aluminum. The cylinders, the clutch and brake cylinders, were turned down out of a piece of brass, and that piece there just soldered on after the fact and then drilled through to about 35 thou. 32 thou stainless steel wire fits in there perfect. And 32 thousandths wire times 8 is pretty much 1/4 inch. And automotive brake lines are pretty much 1/4 inch. So that worked out pretty well. And then all of the linkages inside. Again, looking at the book here, it's really hard to tell what's connected to where. So this is based on reference photos that I looked at to connect everything. And I'll be honest with you, those parts did not want to fit very well. That was a real pain in the rear getting that stuff together. This bracket around here is just brass, again dipped into liquid tin. The front plate is just a turned piece of brass. That piece is soldered on, that piece soldered on, and it's just CA'd to the bellows. And then that's just glued to the back plate here. That screw, copious amounts of CA on the back. That screw goes through, and this piece is actually hollow. So the head of that screw is inside of here. The CA locks it all in place. And that's pretty much the brake units, or the clutch and brake assembly. You'll notice there's some scuff marks here. I painted that front part, and I painted these cylinders. The color I used is burnt iron. It's actually this right here. Model Masters burnt iron is what I used. And just a really light dusting of it. And you can see there's some scuffs that happen from just handling it and assembling it and putting the thing together. And I think that actually helps in the realism. Sometimes if you make everything just perfect, like everything just perfectly painted and no blemishes at all, that kind of sometimes distracts from the realism, I think. So I thought about going back and touching that up. I mean, it would be easy enough to do. But I think if I leave it, having the little worn edges and scuffs, I think that just helps this be more believable. I think it helps in the realism of the unit as a whole. It's just my opinion. If you don't like it like that, then when you make yours, you can paint it all perfect. But yeah, I like it. It's obviously not perfect, but at that size, yeah, this was pushing my abilities as a model maker. To be quite honest with you, this was quite difficult for me. My biggest gripe right now is that washer here. I'm going to pop that off and replace that. So don't worry about that. So this goes. I drilled a hole here. Let me focus that. That goes right there, and the other part goes the other way, right there. So that is all of that setting in place. And compared to the reference photo, once I get the brake lines in, and once I get the hose, that's a vacuum hose that will connect here. Once I get the lines and the hoses in, I think I'm looking pretty good. It's definitely far better than what the kit provided. All right, so in the next video, like I said, I will make the part for the throttle linkage. There's a bracket that goes here, bracket here. I'll look at my reference photos again, make sure I'm not missing anything, And I would really love to be able to paint all of this with the actual color, the final color. Paint all of this and then get this stuff mounted and start working on the engine mounting and get the engine finished and mounted, and then get all the suspension and steering in, and then get all this stuff done. That's what I'm working towards. But yeah, I wanted to get all that stuff that gets mounted to the Firewall done before I paint everything. So that's where I'm at now. This is where I'm going to end it. If you have any comments, questions, feel free and leave any comments that you want. And like I said, I'm going to end it here. So, as always, until next time, thanks for watching.